The instructor for today's video is Dr. Melissa Cry, an associate professor of forest resources management in the Department of Ecosystem Science and Management at Penn State University. She is also the director of the Forest Owner Carbon and Climate Education Program.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm going to walk you through the Peers and Pros 360 program. It's a peer learning method, and I'm going to show you some of our evaluation data too about how we've used this to teach landowners about carbon markets. So the Peers and Pros 360 is a formal method for generating collaborative learning experiences. It is a discussion-based activity where small groups of people talk through key topics that have been identified ahead of time. What makes it unique is that the experts, or the pros, join at the end of the conversation to clarify any technical points and offer advice. They don't lead the conversation, but they help fill in the gaps. This model has been used in other areas of natural resource management and education, like prescribed fire, and we've adapted it to carbon markets with tailored discussion prompts. The great thing about this approach is that you don't need to be a subject matter expert because you can bring in those local experts, like those involved in carbon markets or forest economics. So it's really flexible. You can run it in the field, in a classroom, or alongside other events. No special setup is needed. Just gather folks and say, let's have a quick circle talk on carbon markets. Another big benefit is that it gives educators insight into what learners care about and what they already know. So it doubles as a kind of a needs assessment, which you can use to build more relevant programs in the future. This approach is also really valuable for learners. It lets them work through complex topics together using collaboration and constructive discussion, not arguing, but problem solving as a group. They also benefit from expert input at the end, which helps clear up common myths or half-truths. And that kind of clarification is tough to get otherwise, especially when it's hard to pinpoint where misunderstandings come from. It also helps learners connect with local professionals, and they can follow up with them later. And it encourages curiosity. Someone might hear a comment and think, wait, I want to learn more about that. Most importantly, it gives them a chance to practice talking about these topics, which builds confidence and reinforces learning. To implement this method, there are 3 basic steps. Step 1 is identifying the right topics. Choose topics that participants care about or may find confusing. If it's too academic or abstract, it won't land and people may not participate. Use declarative statements in the language of landowners, something they might actually say and have an opinion on. The goal isn't to test knowledge, but to spark discussion. And the statements don't have to be technically correct. They're just meant to prompt people to get talking and reflecting. Here are a few examples of peer statements from our curriculum. For example, card 1 says, a carbon credit is the money you get from a big company to not cut your trees. This opens up discussion about what is really a carbon credit. Card 2 says, carbon offset registries are the same as a carbon market, which invites conversation about the difference between registries and markets. Card 14 claims carbon contracts require long commitments. So this prompts a deeper dive into why shorter terms are not more common in carbon contracts. And card 8 says, most of the carbon in a forest isn't in the trees, sparking conversations about which carbon pools are in the forest. Now, let's talk about implementing this approach in the field. First, choosing the right location is key. It should be a place where people can easily hear each other and share their experiences. Doing this outside in a forested area could work well if it's nice and quiet. The educator decides when and where to start the discussion, and perhaps during a demonstration or planned stop on the tour. The key is to weave these discussions into scheduled activities. At the designated times, everyone stands in a circle or sit if they need to, and being in a circle creates this equal space for sharing. The cards are handed out to a few peers who then read the statements aloud, and then the host asks, How would you respond if a friend or colleague said this? This gives participants time to share their thoughts. The first time could be a bit awkward since people aren't usually having opportunity to talk, but once they get the hang of it, it becomes really engaging. After about 10 or 15 minutes, the host then invites the expert to step in and provide some clarifications or key takeaway points. The expert helps highlight important points and clears up confusion. It's a simple format, but once it's established, it offers great learning opportunities. Here's an example of some clarifications that you can offer that we provide in our curriculum. So take statement 6 that says trees pull carbon from the soil, which is false. The curriculum offers talking points to help clarify that. And this is useful when that discussion host maybe isn't very confident in explaining it. These points help reinforce the role of photosynthesis in carbon storage and in the soils. It's also helpful to have those experts since they can also help explain these concepts more clearly. Here's some tips for making it work. Use only 2 to 3 statements per theme or per session. And it's really important that the pros only listen. And it's helpful if the host makes sure that everyone who wants to speak gets a chance to speak. So it's a bit like managing the room. Keeping in mind, though, not to call out anyone or make them feel uncomfortable. It's about creating a safe place to talk. Also, getting evaluation feedback is important for understanding how this method may be benefiting your clients so that you're more aware about how to implement it in ways that are better in the future. I'm going to share with you the evaluation survey we use, which focuses on the benefits of collaborative learning. We asked participants how strongly they agreed with statements like if they felt they were free to share their opinions, if diverse viewpoints were presented, if the discussion was fair, if they learned from each other, and if they had a better understanding of the topic afterwards. This data comes from 65 participants across multiple Peers and Pros events that we did on carbon management and markets. As you can see, most participants agreed or strongly agreed that they experienced these benefits, both social and academic. Of course, some are neutral or disagreed, which is totally fine. We made sure to get feedback from everybody, and this range of responses helps us understand how well the approach is working. For example, 10 people weren't sure if the exchange of viewpoints was balanced, and this might be because they didn't really know the topic well enough. Overall, though, the feedback is pretty positive, and it gives us insight into how these methods are received. So in summary, we recommend you limit the number of themes you cover, allow those conversations to be free-flowing, and collect feedback from participants using an evaluation survey. Here's a reflection question for you. What opportunities do you have to use this Peers and Pros strategy in your programs? And which experts would be good to involve in these discussions? Thank you for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out our free online educator course. If you're taking the course, remember to complete the evaluation survey and comprehension check at the end of the module. And we'll see you at the next video.